Good evening and welcome to round 4 of the RWB International Constructors Championship here at Misano. I am Roblo97 and I am joined tonight by Panda. Good evening.
Rob, good evening. You can just call me Jay for tonight. But yeah, good evening. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jay. And Misano, what a track. I mean, Rob, we've been waiting for this track, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. It's the 4th round of the Constructors Championship tonight. So we're having two 25-minute races here at Misano, but also it's the last outing for the Constructors Championship season for the current batch of GT4 cars. As for the remaining 4 rounds, we will be running the big full-on GT3 monsters, which is going to be very interesting indeed. It's currently 2.5-ish minutes left in qualifying, and qualifying appears to have been quite interesting so far tonight, as Misano, it's the kind of track where in order to set a fast lap time, you really have to be on the edge with regards to track limits. So it makes me wonder if anyone may or may not have fallen foul of this so far. It's currently Radek Schuller fastest for KTM ahead of Nathaniel Shirley, who we are currently looking at right now in the Porsche. Third place is RWB Godzilla, Dan Barnett and Mo Plate, all representing Audi. Then we've got Gilbert Wood in the Porsche, Samuel Kruger in the 4th of the Audis, Foldeshi in the number 98 BMW, Mason in the number 20 KTM, and Debug in the Aston Martin.
Yeah. I mean, Rob, what a grid. And as you said, the thing about Misano is it's so easy to invalidate your lap here. So, I think some people definitely going to see some people at the bottom of the grid that, wouldn't normally be there because they messed up a lap. And I think at the one hand, of course, that is good. But on the other hand, it can just as well kind of turn up the whole standings onto their heads, if that makes sense. But on the other hand, we do want to, of course, focus on the physical driving itself. These guys, extremely talented. And as you said, this is the last time they're going to be using the GT4 cars. So now I'm asking you, my friend. Okay, we'll wait 2 seconds before you can answer. But the question is now is, at the end of the day, what are these guys going to be able to do? Being in the GT4 cars for the last time, they're going to want to give their... So I think, Rob, it's going to be very interesting to see what these guys are going to try and do and how far they're going to try and push it. How far they're going to try and push the cars to finish off this season. Let's see if your mic's back. Is your mic back? Yes, it is.
Yeah, my microphone is back. So about slight technical difficulties there with the connection on my microphone. So I've just unplugged it and have switched to the built-in microphone on my headset. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be quite interesting indeed to see just how hard some teams are willing to push, because of course there are some manufacturers like Porsche, McLaren, Mercedes and Audi, for example, where you have both GT3 and GT4 cars from the same manufacturer. And then you have manufacturers like KTM, such as the one driven by Eddie Warden, who's just crossed the line in 6th place, where they don't have a GT3 spec version of the Crossbow. So my guess is that they will be switching to a different manufacturer. My guess being Honda.
Honda, definitely. I think Honda is going to be extremely good. I think it's going to be an extremely popular one, if that makes sense. But I think we've ended out the top. I think we've ended out qualifying here. Have we? I think we have. Yeah. Fastest then in the session, Radek Schuller with a brilliant lap of 1:43.695. That's absolutely amazing, isn't it, Rob? I mean, as you were talking about the invalidations, that's a pretty quick lap around Misano.
Yeah, it is indeed. Although James Lacey in the number 997 Maserati putting a very late flyer in there at the end of the session to get to within a tenth of Radek's lap. So doing very, very well indeed to close. And then you got Nathaniel Shirley in third place in the Porsche and Crawford Brown in another KTM Crossbow, all within 2/10 of Schuller's lap time. So it's definitely going to be quite an interesting race this afternoon.
Oh yeah, Rob, I think, I'll say it like this. If the top four can all be within 2/10 of each other, I think win isn't guaranteed to everyone, or to anyone. Sorry, I think this race win could go to any manufacturer, to any driver, and it's going to be extremely, amazing to see who can, maybe hold on in both races, or who can, surprise us and take both races, or maybe, they just take one race. We wouldn't know. Why would we not know? Because we have about 50 minutes of racing coming up. Isn't that wonderful? But yeah, Rob, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. It's going to be interesting to see what pace they do in this race. And yeah, I can't wait, man.
Same here. There's only one pit stop required, as it is only a 25 minutes race. So given how relatively short it is, you would expect the drivers to be thinking, well, I'm just going to throw caution to the wind to a degree here and just push as hard as I can. So yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting one.
Yeah, no, I think so. Definitely. The thing is, I know in the sim racing, a lot of them call it the splash and dash, and that's what we might see is drivers quite literally just coming into the pits just because they have to, if that makes sense, and then quite literally just adding in 2-3 liters of fuel and just going again and just pushing those cars to the absolute limit. And that's what's going to be required. Misano, of course, it's a tricky track, but if you're fast at it, if you're fast at it, you're going to be good. I know it sounds stupid, but it's easy to mess up around here. And I think the guys in the top four in that 2/10, they're going to be challenging each other constantly. And I think we're definitely going to see some amazing battles today. So yeah, pushing, Rob, I think that's the only strategy. I don't think there's any strategies about saving your tires. I think it's just push, no holding back, just go.
We have a lovely, almost as if it's being ridden, a cameraman's riding a Segway as we go past the grid. We see Crawford Brown there. On to row 3, we have RWB Godzilla in the Audi and Eddie Warden in the KTM. And we've got 2 more Audis, Dan Barnett and MO Plates. The cameraman's got a bit taller, I see. There's Gilbert Wood in the Porsche and Sam Kruger in another one of the Audis there. That was your top 10. Very Formula E-esque, riding the Segway down through the middle of the starting grid, something I should know a little bit about as I've spent far too long covering that series. As meanwhile, they all come out of the curva Misano and onto the pit straight. And just waiting for the lights to change now as the last few cars are still trying to get round the final corner. The lights have gone green as it's been a good start for Radek Schuller there in the KTM. He leads going into turn 1 as most of the field is still going too wide through the first chicane here. Having a look at to see if there's any drama in the midfield at all, as the whole field just really Constantina's up as for Crawford Brown's going a bit of a look there. In fact, he's got past Nate Shirley, and in fact, Nathaniel Shirley has actually been hit by another driver there and pushed off the track. Unfortunately, couldn't quite make out which driver that was, whether it was dropped down behind Godzilla and Eddie Warden, and now has MO Plate for company, although Plate runs very wide there as they come away from the back straight. I was still looking at Nathaniel Shirley in the Porsche Cayman. There's a queue of cars now right behind Eddie Warden, including Godzilla, Shirley. In fact, excuse me, so it appears to be Mo Plate who's got the jump there. I do apologise. We come into this very tricky braking zone. Trying to brake and turn at the same time is immensely difficult, which is part of the challenge of that section of track, the Curva del Carro. So now they come into the Curva Misano to complete the first lap of the race here. Almost perfect conditions for racing this morning in game time. Radek Schuller leads, but by less than half a second from James Lacey in the Maserati Gran Turismo. KTM third and fourth at the moment with Crawford Brown and Eddie Warden, although Crawford really is hustling the Maserati and has a look up the inside there. Is he going to get the move done? He does not, because Lacey has the inside for the next left-hander. So it's now going to be a case of, can the KTM get enough momentum to be able to get close enough on the brakes? And Crawford Brown has a look, has a think about it, going the long way round, and in fact he's gone off the track a little bit there somewhat. You can also see the onboard from inside the KTM as he really is trying to get past James Lacey's Maserati.
I do have to say, Rob, I mean, you know, we were talking in front of the stream or before the stream, and we said that it's all going to be about those lap one maneuvers. And I mean, hasn't it been? You know, we've seen people surely, of course, you know, lose so many places. And now, you know, we've got this move, I think, lap 2 or 3, you know, Crawford trying to get onto Lacey. I mean, the thing about Misano, as you said, as you told me, is it's so much about those first few laps because of that concertina effect and because of the field stretching out so much. This, you know, the faster you get that move done, the better. And I do genuinely think that if Crawford can get this move done within the next, I would say, lap or two, he might be able to barely secure it. But we'll see. It looks like that KTM definitely has some pace. Not quite sticking to Lacey, I think, as he would want. But he is definitely still there, and he's making Lacey know that. But yeah, as you said, KTM 1, 3, and 4, some more good points for them. They've been, you know, the extremely good scorer. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where they end up in this championship.
Yeah, we also just saw a glimpse there in the background of the midfield battle with Marchant there in the Mercedes AMG GT4, just getting past Xavier Eugeni for 17th place as they were wrestling onto the pitch straight there. Excuse me. So you see Daniel Marchant in the Mercedes. Big Camaro right behind him. It's a very big old car. Front engine, lots of power. The Camaro, and in fact, I think shares a few parts with some more exotic motorsport products built by General Motors' portfolio of companies, shall we say, because it's built by the same people who build the works Corvettes.
It is, isn't it? I actually forgot about that for a second. It is actually.
Pratt and Miller. It is, and that's why it costs over $250,000.
That's
for a GT4 car.
It's a lot of money to pay for a GT4 car. Bloody hell. That's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, I can remember the days when you could get a GT3 car brand new for that much back in like 2009. As Nathaniel Shirley is currently in 5th place at the moment because Mo Plate, as well as Debug, Mad Out, Xavier Eugeni, have all decided to come in to make their mandatory pit stop as early as possible, which actually might not be the worst idea in the world, to be fair, because it does mean that you're going to have some pretty clean air in front of you, and you can really get the hammer down a fair bit. So it's an interesting strategic call, and it's one which might well actually pay off for them, especially Emo in particular. I I think he might be in with a real shout here. And we saw one of the Alpines.
Sorry, Rob. I do want to add on to that and say, extremely. The thing is, as we were talking about earlier, is those cars, if they now get into clean air, which they should, as I'm looking at the stats, if they get into clean air, they'll just be able to push for the whole rest of the 18 minutes. And if they really get all the performance out of their car that is possible, all I'm saying is we need to still remember those names, because Mo especially, we've seen how rapid he is, and I think at the end of part of this race he is going to be there battling for some positions. We can expect a lot from him, I'll say that.
Yeah, meanwhile we're currently looking at Damien Vilk in the Alpine A110, who is closing up on the back of Jack Mason in the KTM Crossbow, as one of the other KTMs of Crawford Brown just sets the fastest lap of the race, as RWB Godzilla comes into the pits for his mandatory pit stop. Currently looking at Godzilla there, coming in for what is likely to be a pretty short stop in the pits. Race not being of a length where you need to worry too much about fuel consumption, unlike this weekend's Kyalami 9 hours.
Yes, Rob. Yeah, the Kyalami 9 hour, for those who don't know, it is an actual in real life event that is every yearly. It hasn't happened this year, unfortunately, but has been moved on to next year. But yeah, December 11th, as far as I'm concerned, Rob, myself and you will be hosting that Kyalami 9 hour, and we'll see some different strategies, because doing a 9 hour race, it isn't, it's long, but it isn't quite a 12-hour race, but it also isn't a 6-hour race. So it's going to be interesting to see, how big the teams are and what the teams do in that race. Especially with fuel. I think that's going to be extremely interesting. But I think someone who isn't currently worried about fuel is Mr. Lacey, who is still somehow being chased by that KTM. KTM looks as he's going to make a move, he just doesn't get it because Lacey had the inside for that turn. Battles upon battles, aren't they, Rob? I mean, if we have a look down at Mason in P10, he's also being closed up on.
Yeah, he's got Damien Vilk right with him there, as there have been a few more pit callers as well. So if anyone's watching and wondering why some drivers have a little green line next to their race number, that means that they have made their mandatory pit stop, and Mo Plate is currently leading the group of drivers who have done just that, as we see Mason there with a little bit of traffic, methinks, having come out of the pits, although he was quite close to. Now, the blue M4 there is, in fact, M4, excuse me, has pitted already. The car just in front of him is the number 98 of Peter Foldeschi, who has not come into the pits just yet. Currently now looking at Foldeschi in the M4. He's doing pretty good so far. He set his best lap last time around, so this is going to be quite interesting to see just how long he decides to stay out.
It definitely is. I do want to also have a look, if we can, just for 2 seconds. I want to steal our attention over to Magnus Dahlgren, who's in a beautiful McLaren, and he's kind of an odd situation because he is chasing Binnersley, who hasn't bid yet. Dahlgren hasn't bid yet, but he's also being chased by Tarantino, who also hasn't bid yet. So, Rob, I do want to ask, when it comes to pit strategy, what do you think these guys are thinking? Do you think, they're thinking maybe to undercut one another? Actually, as we say that, Dahlgren dives in pits, probably trying to undercut Binnersley. That's commentators. That's just the commentate, man. Wow, that's amazing.
It was a case of, well, if I were Dahlgren, I'd be pitting right now, and he has come into the pits in the blue and yellow McLaren 570S GT4, No doubt we'll be seeing him in the GT3 McLaren, the big 720S, for the 4 rounds which follow, as Emo Plate, meanwhile, has set the fastest lap of the race. So that decision earlier to maybe come into the pits as soon as the pit window opens and get some clear track might well be paying off for Emo.
I don't think it's paying off. I think we can absolutely say it is paying off. I mean, Emo is clear of basically everyone. In front of him, he has a massive gap. Behind him, he has a massive gap. So Emo's only pressure right now is, literally, Rob, to set the fastest lap after lap after lap, and just make sure he gets the best out of his car. So hopefully, once the leaders pit, the top 18 guys pit, he can be in a position where he'll be, in the top 5, top 4. So Emo just really, I think he's in a wonderful situation for himself right now. We'll see if he can continue setting those fast laps. He should be able to, we've seen some really good pace out of him. But yeah, definitely I think one of the best strategies. We see Godzilla behind him as well, also on really, really, really good pace. Not as fast as Emo, but Godzilla's still getting everything out of that car as he can, and that's all that Audi needs for to get decent points in the championship.
Yeah, we've got Dan Barnett coming in another one of the Audis, as well as, in fact, so is Jacob Tarantino, for that matter, also diving into the pits. Now, from having commentated on the previous round so far, some of the KTM drivers do tend to stay out quite long indeed. So with that being said, I think we should have time to do a quick rundown through field. It's currently Radek Schuller leading in the number 96 KTM Crossbow GT4 from James Lacey in the number 997 Maserati. Then it's Crawford Brown in another one of the KTMs, who in fact is still glued to the rear wing of the Maserati. Then it's Nathaniel Shirley in 4th place, ahead of Eddie Warden in 5th, Samuel Kruger in 6th, Gilbert Wood in 7th, Peter Foldeschi in 8th place in the BMW M4. Then it's Mason, Damien Vilk, they're rounding out the top 10 in the little Alpine A110. Then we have Rick Binnersley in the 888 Mercedes, ahead of Marchant in the number 6 Mercedes from Brook and Red, Goncalves and Scherblum. As we see Jonas Red there in the 777 Aston Martin, as Eddie Warden has come into the pits. Now, behind Scherblum is where it gets a little bit interesting, because we get to the start of the drivers who have come into the pits. In fact, we can see Emo Plate there with a McLaren in front of him, which indeed I think is actually Scherblum.
It is Scherblum.
Letting Emo Plates go there for 16th place. Then we have behind Emo, RWB Godzilla, Dan Barnett, Magnus Dahlgren in 20th place in another McLaren, and right behind Magnus, and very, very close indeed, is Jacob Tarantino in 21st place there in the Porsche Cayman GT4. Then we have Xavier Eugeni in 22nd place in the Chevrolet Camaro, excuse me. We have Hutchinson in 23rd, Debug in 24th, Potty in 25th place in another one of the Alpine A110s. Then Aiden Mueller, Agoris, De Vries, Shepard and Mad Owl rounding out the top 30. Then we got Gartner in one of the Porsches and Burley in another BMW M4. That is the field as they stand with just over 9 minutes to go. But Eddie Warden has received a drive-through penalty.
Rob, you stole the words out of my mouth. I wanted to say that. Come on, man. But yeah, Eddie Warden getting a drive-through penalty. I have absolutely no idea why Eddie has that, but that has, yeah. I don't want to say that's ruined his race, but I mean, you know, he's already pitted, and he's already in P14, you know, really looking strong, really having some good pace behind Emo, and now he's got a drive-through. I mean, Rob, you know, the KTM's. I assume it's speeding, yeah.
Yeah, that's my assumption.
The KTM's having such a good race, you know, looking so good, and then you get a drive-through. That must just be a bit of a knock. I don't say a knock to the ego, but, you know, a knock where it hurts. Let's say that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we are also joined in the commentary box by Silver Fox, aka Slip Angle. Evening.
Hello, fellas.
You right?
Yeah. I'm just watching the race right now. You say part of the field is pitted, correct?
Yes, part of the field has indeed pitted, although there are only the top 7 are yet to pit at the moment. Although, no doubt they will be pitting in the next couple of laps, I'd imagine.
Within 2 minutes and 40 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pit window. Yep. 2:30.
Yeah.
Who was the leader when the pit cycle started? When first got pitted?
Well, Emo Plate was the first driver to pit, and we're currently on board with him in the 71 Audi, as everyone apart from Radek Schuller has all decided to make the jump into the pits for their mandatory stop. Radek doing what he, to be fair, usually does in these races, which is actually leave it as late as possible. So, looking at the lap whereabouts he is on the circuit, he's definitely going to be coming in at the end of this lap. And in fact, Eddie Warden has also come into the pits, although that's because he has a drive-through penalty and hopefully has hit the speed limiter a fraction of a second sooner this time.
That can dampen your spirits for the rest of the race, if you've already pitted especially.
Yeah, it's a tricky one as well, because KTM usually, well, it's the sort of circuit, I think, where KTM are going to be really strong. It's a circuit that prioritizes braking and handling and not so much outright speed, which is okay, quite useful when you've got the only car on the grid with a carbon chassis, as Radek indeed comes into the pits for his stop. So it's not a surprise to see KTM doing well. It's just a surprise that one of them is currently now in 21st place. Although, no doubt, Eddie is going to really have a crack at trying to get past Debug to go into the top 20.
We'll have to have a look, Rob, at this man Lacey, because he is theoretically, if he can get past Sir Robert in the pits, he is theoretically a race leader. But as you said, those KTMs do like to stay out very long and have short pit stops. So it's going to be interesting to see where Radek comes out. I think his pit stop should be finishing any second here. But yeah, have a look who's going to be in the lead of this race, because I have a slight feeling it's going to be very tight. Is Radek coming out? Radek, are you... Radek?
There he is.
The pit exit at Misano is also quite a strange one, as it actually filters out onto the to the outside of turn 3, and Radek is already at turn 5, taking an absolutely perfect line through there. Another thing I noticed with the Maserati of Lacey as well is that the Maserati doesn't actually have traction control or ABS. So you did see earlier just the back end stepping out slightly on the Maserati, and yeah, I can't imagine how tricky that thing must have been to drive at Alton Park in the rain and the cold and in probably the most British weather conditions you could possibly have thrown up on Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Are you sure, Rob, that Maserati doesn't have ABS or traction control?
Yeah.
No, it does not have V8s.
Why on earth would they make a car that doesn't have either of those, especially if it's a racing car?
It's essentially the Maserati is a one-make series car. And the Maserati Trofeo series, as we see Debug and... Oh, I was a bit messy there between Debug, Eddie Warden, and I think there was a BMW involved as well. That BMW, I don't think was actually for position either. It was a lapped BMW, which unfortunately happened to have a KTM on one side, driven by Eddie Warden, Debug on the other side, and in the Aston Martin. And oh no, sorry, excuse me, it was not the not BMW, it was actually McLaren. It was Chris Brook in the number 1 McLaren, who's dropped back a good few spots indeed in the RCB Racing car. Was with Eddie and Debug. Was thinking for a moment, is this going to be like that infamous overtake at Spa-Francorchamps in 2000 between Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen, with Ricardo Zonta in the middle, just trying his best to keep the steering as straight as possible and probably with his eyes closed, I'd imagine. But that was not a lap car, that was for position. So no doubt the stewards will have a look into that post-race. And I will say no more about stewarding other than our stewards are absolutely excellent and do an absolutely cracking job indeed. Before I go on a bit of a rant about what happened at the weekend, but no, that can wait.
Yeah, let's not. Let's not but I think that AMG just gone wide of Daniel Merchant.
Yeah, that was Merchant there in the AMG GT4 going a bit wide there. Whether he was on his own, whether he had a little bit of help, I don't know. Still,
I think so.
Still in the top 20 as Eddie there is now closing in on Hutchinson for 17th place. So he tries his best to undo some of the damage caused by the drive-through penalty. Gets right onto the back of the Aston Martin there on the brakes. Not really an overtaking spot this corner, but he's going to have a look up the inside at Curva Misano and sends it absolutely beautifully.
That is one thing, Rob, isn't it? Eddie he has no fear. I mean, we've seen him race in so many races, and he really does go for some dangerous stuff, doesn't he? I mean, as he said, no one would go for overtaking there, and yet Eddie was like, no, I will, don't worry. I'll be the guy that goes for overtake there. Yeah, but brilliant job by Eddie. It's a P17 from, I think, what was it, P24 already? So really, that damage, it was bad, but he's definitely
he's on a mission.
He's on a mission.
Oh, yeah. And also, one thing I have read about in magazines and in books is that a slightly wound-up racing driver tends to be a phenomenally quick racing driver. So a situation like that might actually be beneficial to the drivers. It really will fire them up big time.
I'm just trying to have a look here at who we have here in our picture cam. I have absolutely no idea who it is.
It's between Mad Al and Soblum.
I believe it is. That is the 07 car of Mad Al, and right in front of him is Matt Scherblum. Just under half a second between them at the second timing split. Currently look at... Also, first timing split, excuse me. Got mixed up by the track we were on.
Rob, I have just noticed 25 minutes has passed, and this is the last lap.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. It's Radek Schiller leading then up in P1, away from Lacey, Emo Plate ending up in P3, Shirley in P4, and Brown in P5. 25 minutes.
Yeah, these 25-minute races don't last long. to say the least. And once again, it has been shown that this is very much the case here, as Radek Schuller comes on the long run back towards the pits now, coming up to this incredibly tricky corner as you're almost braking and turning at the same time, and then hard trying to straighten the car, hard on the brakes. Meanwhile, we're looking at a battle between Mason and Kruger, I believe that is. Yes, indeed it is, because I can see Rick Binnersley in the background in the Mercedes, as Radek Schuller comes out of the curve of Misano for the final time and crosses the line to win the first race this evening at Misano. Second place is expected to be James Lacey, as this battle still rages on between Mason and Kruger. In fact, Mason's not only lost the position there to Kruger, he might lose another position to Binnersley as well. Binnersley is being forced to go the long way round, and there's car back there, and that sends Mason hard into the wall and back across the circuit. He keeps his foot in, and Tarantino is absolutely hard on the throttle as well to try and see if he can close the gap, but he doesn't quite do that. Well, that will go.
Oh my god, I have no idea. I'm gonna have a look if we can have a replay there.
That was the fastest back on track I've ever seen, though.
Oh, look at this. Rick goes wide.
Watch this.
Oh,
little hip check there, but unfortunately, it's right where the wall guardrail closes up towards the inside of the circuit. So, if it had been a couple, about 50 odd meters, if that, later, then it would have been a completely different outcome, I think, and Jack Mason would have had enough time and momentum to just keep his foot in and get away with it. So that was the end of the first race here at Misano. It was Radek Schuller winning from James Lacey, Emo Plate, Nathaniel Shirley, and Crawford Brown rounding out the top 5. Gilbert Wood was 6th, Godzilla 7th, Foldeshi 8th, Barnett 9th, and Sam Kruger rounding out the top 10. Rick Binnersley was in 11th place for Mercedes, ahead of Jack Mason and Jakob Tarantino. Magnus Dahlgren, in the fastest of the McLarens, was in 14th place, ahead of Xavier Eugenie, putting in a good performance in the big Chevrolet Camaro. Eddie Warden eventually fought his way up into 16th place, ahead of Debug, and Hutchinson was 18th from Marchant, and Jonas Red rounded out the top 20 in the Aston Martin. Chris Brook was 21st for McLaren, ahead of Damien Vilk and Harry Hottie, both in Alpine A110s. Then it was Aiden Mueller from Goncalves to round out the top 25. Robert de Vries was 26th in the Mercedes AMG GT4, ahead of Terry Agoris in an Alpine A110, followed by Matt Sjöblom in the 555 McLaren 570S GT4. Then rounding out the top 30 was Mad Owl and Gartner in a Porsche. I didn't quite catch, unfortunately, who was in 31st place. It was Shepard, in 31st in another Chevrolet Camaro GT4, and James Burley rounded out the field in a BMW M4, although I think, judging by how many laps down he was, he may have had a technical issue during that race.
Unfortunately, but Rob, as you said,
yes.
As you said, race 1, absolutely beautiful. More than I think we could expect. And yeah, if race 2 is going to be anything like race 1, I think race 2 might be extremely entertaining at the least. But yeah, no, absolutely amazing race there from Radek. Really just controlled the race. Gambled a bit with the last pit stop, with the late pit stop, sorry. But hey, he made it work, and he got there, and he won the race. So beautiful from Radek. Really, yeah, I think we can all give it, a bit of applause to him for race win.
Yeah, it was good. It was very Radek Schuller-esque, if that kind of makes sense. Yep. In that he started on pole, and just controlled the race. And even when we were thinking, oh, how late is he going to be coming into the pits, there was just no panic whatsoever. Into the pits, get the pit stop done quickly, efficiently, back out on track in the lead, and carry on and win the race.
He definitely knows how to. He definitely knows how to lead. I can tell you that. Radek definitely a strong leader, and I think he doesn't have any problems with that, does he? I mean, I think we'll definitely be seeing a lot. Hopefully, we see a lot more leading from him. But on the other side, a bit of a mix-up, bit of a turn one mashup could be fun to see in race 2. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't want to jinx it, but it could be fun. Turn one issue. Let's call it that.
Yes. Apparently, there's a Formula 1 race on at the weekend, and there's never been any championships decided at the first corner in the history of Formula 1, has there?
Oh no! Oh no! Could this be a first this weekend? Could we see Radek and Lacey reincarnate? What's going to happen this weekend? could this be a telltale story?
Well, no, because both Radek and Lacey, I've got to be quite careful with how I word this.
You know what?
Give you some idea.
Rob, let's just not word it at all, right? Let's just let the
listeners and viewers at home insinuate what we're referring to as the Segway moves down the grid. Radek Schuller, James Lacey, Nathaniel Shirley there on the left, Crawford Brown on the right in the yellow-fronted KTM. Then it's RWB Godzilla in the Audi, and Eddie Warden in the
taller.
KTM. Yep, he's got a little bit taller there. See the Audi row of Barnett and Plate. And coming past them, we have Gilbert Wood in the Porsche and Samuel Kruger in the Audi to round out the top 10. Coming on to the next row of the grid, we've got Peter Faldeschi in the BMW M4, Jack Mason in the KTM Crossbow, and we've got Damien Vilk in the 21 Alpine and Debug in the number 12 Aston Martin. And behind them, we've got Hutchinson in the number 88 Aston Martin and Mad Al in the number 7 Alpine.
We should really help our cameraman here. He's struggling a bit on that Segway. He's going up and down.
Put a new battery in there. Dan Marchant there in the number 6 Mercedes and Xavier Eugenie, we just saw on the right of the screen there in the number 68 Chevrolet Camaro, the top 20 being rounded out by Harry Hottie and Chris Brook. They come into the final corner now. It's waiting for everyone to get as round as best they can. Fortunately, it's quite a short straight here, and in fact, we're already racing before the driver is at the back of the field through the final corner. But Radek Schuller there, he's on the inside for the first chicane. Lacey's with him, so's Shirley Brown Godzilla. I'm having a little look to see what happens here. Is there going to be contacts? No. Brown being made to go the long way round by Shirley there. Shirley hard on the brake, still trying to keep the inside line. In fact, he forces Brown a little bit wide there, but Brown has the inside for the next corner. And in fact, Brown does indeed get third place, and well, briefly, and then Shirley just about in third place. They come down the back straight. Huge gaggle of cars. We're currently looking from the back of Nathaniel Shirley's Porsche at the impending train. See how close the KTM gets on the brakes. Phenomenal stopping power on that thing, but then again, that's because it does weigh less than pretty much everything else on the grid. One would
to be quite fair.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is just the definition of light, isn't it? But yeah, the KTM guys, Rob, really brave out there. I mean, late on the brakes, and they are genuinely brave when it comes to their moves as well. So I think that's what makes them so successful at the end of the day, is they are not scared of anything. I don't know how they do it, but yeah.
It makes sense, though, because the KTM, it doesn't weigh anything compared to some of the other cars. I mean, generally, the lighter the car, the less mass there is. So the less you have weight affected in terms of like your weight transfer and that. So if you put big old racing brakes, we see Crawford Brown very much making most of those to get past Nathaniel Shirley for third place. The braking performance of that KTM is in no small part thanks to just how light it is. It's also why it's one of the least powerful cars in the field, but it does make up for that in the corners. Meanwhile, I've noticed that Jakob Tarantino in the 22 Porsche has dropped down to 21st place behind Magnus Dahlgren. There's maybe a little bit of a first lap to go. So we see one of the Alpines going off there. That's Hottie. That's Hottie, who I believe has gone off there. Yes,
yeah, it is,
as he is probably going to be waiting and hoping the pit window opens soon. We're going to have a look here as there's all manner of carnage in front and cars bumping into each other left, right and centre, so they all Constantine are up. Hottie runs a bit
no, he just loses it.
Track, loses it and gets fired into the wall. I think that might have been by another Alpine.
I think it was by another Alpine. Oh, the Alpine team boss is really not going to be happy about that one.
Yeah, that's...
sending each other off.
Yeah, it wasn't Damien, it wasn't Al. I'm thinking it might... And I don't think it was Terry either, so it might not have been an Alpine, actually, because I know Damien's car is red, Terry's car is red with the back end in bright yellow, and Mad Al's got a very stylish, if I may say so, black, grey and red livery. So, yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one there, but nevertheless, not good for Harry Hottie at all. Meanwhile, we're on board with Craig Gilbert-Wood in the number 8 Porsche, right on the back of Samuel Kruger's Audi as this little train comes through. So the incident earlier was involved Dahlgren, Tarantino, Burley and Hottie. So I'm guessing that might well have been Burley in the BMW M4.
I think, from what I've seen, I think it was as well. Yeah, we're gonna see, Rob, that changed up their strategy, doesn't it? Because now, you know, for Harley, it's kind of thing, does he pit extremely early, as, you know, the previous race leaders did? Or does he go for a late pit stop and just, you know, constantly try and make up time? Definitely going to check out the strategy here. As we have two battles, actually. The one, Eddie Gordon, and the other one, I'm not quite sure who that is. But, I mean...
That's Billy Hutchinson and Al Gardner.
Oh, cheers, Nate. That is... They're a little bit further down the field. They're down in the 20s. As, yeah, the... Al Gardner there doing a cracking job of getting past the Hutchinson's Aston Martin in his Porsche. A throwback to the Grello livery, and there's a BMW M4 there as well. It's not Voldeschi or Burley. So we'll have a look in a sec to try and see who that is. In fact, the BMW's already come into the pit, so that's a free position gain there. No, Jonas Red is in the 777 Aston Martin, as Godzilla and MO Plate have both come into the pits early on. I wonder if this is very much team strategy here at Audi to have those two come into the pits and then work together a little bit to set some quick lap times. Meanwhile, Nathaniel Shirley he's not letting Crawford Brown get away too much.
But Crawford also isn't letting Lacey get away, is he? I mean, Crawford, of course, more an attack by Shirley. But I mean, Lacey, maybe it's just me, but I mean, Lacey there's already a 2-second gap between him and Schuller. I don't want to say, it's an easy runaway for Schuller again, but I mean, just look at the man. He's having a good day, isn't he, up front?
Yeah, well, it wasn't an easy run for him for Radek last time out at Alton Park. He actually made a very, very rare mistake and went off the track, although, to be fair to him, it was probably easier to try and actually list the people who hadn't gone off the track at some point at Alton Park. The conditions were that treacherous. So it's been another impressive weekend here so far at Misano for Radek Schuller. We currently see, looking back towards Jakob Tarantino from Magnus Dahlgren's McLaren, coming down the pit straight into turn 1. Feed through into turn 2. And this long right-hander, absolutely flat in a GT3 car. Tarantino looking to the outside, tries to do the dummy and cut back to the inside. Doesn't quite pull it off.
Hope he's close.
He is so close as Iden Mueller and Gartner have come into the pit. So has Eddie Warden in the KTM. Meanwhile, Tarantino is still right on the back of Dahlgren's McLaren, car number 3. Has a look to the outside and sends it so hard and goes around the outside. Dahlgren's going to have the line for that corner, but he's gonna maybe not quite close enough, although Dahlgren runs a little bit wide. Tarantino takes a much tighter line there at that corner as well. I wonder if Dahlgren actually...
Sorry, Rob, I do apologise. These guys trust each other too much. How on earth did Tarantino not hit Dahlgren there? As he sends it up and inside, can he get it? Oh, he goes wide! He goes wide! No! Dahlgren gets the position back. Tarantino just can't make this move stick. He just cannot make a move stick. Oh, he dived that inside there. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it says a lot that these two cars are fairly similar as Tarantino dives for the pits. No doubt Magnus Dahlgren is probably going to be thinking,
he's going to undercut me. No.
Yeah, and well, that was some fantastically close racing there. Genuinely good racing between both of those drivers. And like you said, Panda, they really trust each other quite a lot. To be able to race that closely and that fairly as well. I wondered if Dahlgren, at the hairpin onto the back part of the circuit, actually took quite a wide entrance deliberately to try and straighten up the car for the exit.
He might have. He definitely risked track limits, but I think he might have done it because and see, the thing is, in this racing, Rob, is they have to take risks. That's the biggest thing is, it's for them to take those types of risks, it's amazing, but I would never be able to do it. But we are currently looking at Emo Plate. Previously, he was the pitters leader, but now he's only in two when it comes to pits because Shirley somehow has decided, hey, I'm gonna pit before you. Definitely gonna be interesting to see what Shirley does. Really good pace, as we said, and I think he could definitely be a contender for one of those top positions. But what I'm saying is, Rob, it looks like at Misano, what we've seen is, apart from Radek, the rest of the people who have pitted early have had genuine good times in the race. Usually, the pitting early looks like to be the favorable strat at Misano.
Yeah, it does. As we just see Hutchinson there chasing down Matt Scherblum and losing it as well. Lost the back end a bit there on the Aston Martin. In fact, Billy Hutchinson
got disqualified. He just got disqualified.
Track to the pits. Yes, he has. I don't actually know what has happened there. So
Do you want
that's...
a replay? Let's have a look if we can get a replay on that. Not picture.
He's already lost it. Oh, that and takes the...
Yeah.
Possibly
That's a bit unfair.
It's quite a bit unfair. That's fine.
It's unfair, but then again, he was effectively running the short circuit at Misano on that lap. So
Yeah, but it wasn't by choice.
yeah, maybe not by choice. It's very unfortunate for Billy. That's very, very unfortunate disqualification there.
But Daniel Barnett this race, on the other hand, is not looking as unfortunate. He's, P4 when it comes to the guys who pitted. He's looked like he's putting in some really good lap times. And it looks like him and his teammate there, Godzilla, really working together throughout the whole race. I mean, Rob, the interesting thing, when it comes to a constructor series like this is, the teams kind of working together to try and get, as high as they possibly can. We've seen a lot of people, letting others pass if they think, letting other teammates pass if they think or know they're faster. So this is really important, isn't it? In a fight like this, is that the teams work together at best they can to get the most points. And I think that's what makes a series like this extremely interesting, is to see how they work, what they do, stuff like that. And it would not surprise me, Godzilla is faster than Daniel apparently, so we might see Godzilla being led by Daniel here in a few laps. We'll have to have a look. We'll see if we can get close enough. But I don't think Daniel will put up too much of a fight against Godzilla if he does want to get past there.
Yeah, well, they've just gone past Matt Scherblum and Kevin Shepherd and Mad Al, all of whom were in the pits there. So they are doing a good job in doing so, trying to close up to the back of Eddie Warden in the 55 KTM Crossbow. And we just see there a nice line through there. Coming up now to the section of track where Lawrence Vantor had actually quite a big accident a few years ago when he was still a works Audi driver in the Blancpain Sprint Series. He collided with a Mercedes, and on that part of the track, given the speeds involved, got absolutely fired off into the barrier, and with enough force to actually take the engine out of the car, and ended up in I think he had a fractured hip, if I remember correctly.
Injuries like that are never fun, are they?
No, but given the size of the impact, it shows you just how well built modern racing cars are.
Look, Rob, I did just say this. Sorry, I do apologize to bother in. But we're just talking about this. Godzilla easily led past by Daniel, and I think their hope is now that Godzilla can hopefully reel in who's about 2.6 seconds up the road and try and get him. As we see Samuel Kruger, Debug and Brooke all pitting there.
Yeah, it's still 5 minutes left on the pit window, so there's still going to be time to get another couple of laps in before the end, which no doubt is what some drivers are probably thinking of doing. See, De Vries there is yet to pit as well, so's Agoris, Magnus Dahlgren, Damien Vilk, all leaving it quite late to come into the pits. So meanwhile, we've got a battle here between...
It was a battle.
Goes well off the track. That's the 138 Mercedes. There. I'm going to have a quick search to see if I can find...
who that is. I'm just trying to have a look at it. Was that De Vries?
Oh, so De Vries. Cheers. Oh, yeah, sorry, my bad. I thought I saw 138. It's the 038. Yeah, that was De Vries there. And yeah, he's now got... Yeah, he's been passed by Crawford Brown. He's been passed by Nathaniel Shirley, I think, there as well. So he's now got MO plate for company in the Audi. Doesn't appear to be too much damage on the front of the Mercedes, thankfully. Just a small...
He doesn't look in shape, does he? Mo goes down the inside.
Mo
Let's make it
goes down the inside as... Eddie Warden running a little bit wide there as well. And I wonder if De Vries is going to pit. No, he's not. He's going to pit next time round as James Lacey, Dan Marchant and Magnus Dahlgren are all in the pits. Actually, looking at the time left on the pit window, there might actually be time for 2 more laps.
What we do need to talk about real quick for just a second, Rob, is our man in the lead, Radek Schuller, because behind him he now has a 15-second gap, and the guy behind him hasn't pit. The guy behind Radek has not pit. That's Gilbert Wood. Radek is leaving he basically has, I think, the second race win secure, doesn't he? Craig.
Well,
that's something scary. To have that big of a gap to P2, Radek's definitely feeling good about himself.
Yeah, I'm trying to have a quick workout as to where he is in relation to the first driver to have pitted, Crawford Brown. He's got 15, 18. Oh, Radek is now coming in slightly earlier than I was expecting him to. I was expecting him to come in a lap later, in all honesty, but no, it's currently, do a quick rundown through the field. It's Radek Schuller from Craig Gilbert Wood, who's also just come into the pits as well, and Peter Foldeschi, who's also come into the pits, and Damien Vilk, Terry Agoris, and then Crawford Brown, Nathaniel Shirley, Emo Plate, James Lacey, and Eddie Warden rounding out the top 10. In 11th place, it's Robert De Vries, who is yet to pit, as Terry Agoris has just come into the pits himself, as has Foldeschi. RWB Godzilla is currently in 12th place ahead of Samuel Kruger, Dan Barnett, and this man here, Rick Binnersley, in the 888 Mercedes-Benz. And we have Jakob Tarantino in 16th place from Debug in 17th. Dan Merchant in 18th place, Mad Owl in 19th, and Chris Brook rounding out the top 20. And we have Magnus Dahlgren in the 21st place, McLaren from Xavier Eugenie, Jack Mason, Kevin Shepherd, Nils Eidenmuller, Gonçalves, Harry Hottie, Al Gartner in 28th place there in the Porsche. And we have Matt Sjöblom in the McLaren, as Terry and Agoris and Robert De Vries dropped down to 13th and 14th so far, respectively. After Sjöblom, we got Burley and Jonas Red rounding out the field because of Hutchinson's disqualification.
Oh, poor Hutchinson, man. That was sting. To be disqualified, that's definitely, I don't think that's what he wanted for his race day. Poor guy. No, I understand why, but it's still, yeah, it's bad, man. We do have to have a look at this.
Burley deflecting Damien Vilk through there, as Vilk comes into the pits because he knows he's only got 38 seconds to get to his pit garage. So comes into the pits now, which should hand the lead anytime around about now back to Radek Schuller, who indeed is scored as being in P1 on the timing chart and with fastest lap of the race for good measure.
And look at that, Rob. The KTMs, again, a very strong showing. P1 and P2 absolutely locking out those top positions. And then a P7 and P21. Mason not going to be that happy, but I mean, extremely good result for the last race here from KTM. I think they're going to be very happy with their season. Showed really good results. Definitely something else. I do want to have a look there in our picture-in-picture. I'm going to try and find them on our main cams here. Give me 2 seconds.
I think we're kind of looking at debug on the rear view camera. Yep, so there's Daniel Merchant there in the Mercedes AMG. He's got Gilbert Wood right behind him, and we're currently looking at this all from the camera mounted to the back of Debug's Aston Martin Vantage, car number 12. So Merchant runs very wide there. Don't think it's hurt him too much. There's Damien Vilk in the 21 Alpine in 16th place. There's Gilbert Wood. They're all quick drivers, so this should be interesting to see how it goes in the last 4 minutes of the race.
what a race it's been. I mean, already another 25 minutes. Rob, it's going too fast, man. I mean, if this is going this fast, imagine how fast that big grid of tomorrow, big grid, what's big grid, Monza?
Yep, at Monza.
And then, of course, the Kylomi 9 hour, that's gonna just fly by. 50 minutes could fly this fast, folks. Make sure to tune in for a rest. I promise it's not that long. Daniel absolutely on debug, really wanting that place. But we see, who's that?
Gilbert Wood having a look around the outside there. I don't think he's got the position. No, he's still behind. He doesn't decide to send it hard at the final turn. Curb Misano.
He's got a good run. He's got a good run. Can he dive in?
Well, he did get a good exit out of there, and currently still not quite close enough. Next obvious overtaking opportunity here, I would say, would be at the end of the back straight, so might be best to just wait until then to see how good the exit is.
No, he's not close enough. Look at that, he's a really far back drop through sector 1 there. Just really dropped far back, and definitely, yeah. Oh, is he going to drive through? He's got to drive through.
Yep, just to top it off, he's got a drive-through, which I am going to presume, in the context of things, means you have been caught speeding in the pit lane.
I think it's track limits.
Yeah, it's track limits, because we
could well be.
Saw him go off there. We saw him go off, and then the game awarded it to him. So I was feeling it's track limits.
We didn't see. We didn't see many track limits penalties at Bathurst during the 12 hours, but then again, the track limits at Bathurst are mainly grass and concrete.
Yeah, I don't think I want to touch the track limits at Bathurst. I think it's a bit dangerous. Mostly.
Well, the track limits at Bathurst usually in real life results in DNF.
So Rob,
yep.
I do apologize. I do just want to say something. If you have a look in general chat, our dear friend RWB Charger has just awarded us with a new role. We are now officially RWB members. I thought I'd bring that up as we see Gilbert going in to serve his drive-through. It's good. It's good. Yeah, it's interesting thing here at Misano, because I know I said off air before the race, the way to set a fast lap at Misano is you have to be on that absolute edge between being on the circuit and invalidating your lap for track limits. You have to cut quite a lot on the inside. You have to run quite wide on corner exit as well. So if Craig's penalty is for track limits, then it's most unlucky, but it's also really quite easy to do here at Misano, for that matter. Currently, 4 seconds left on the clock, just under that now. We're looking at where Radek Schuller is. He's coming to the final corner now, so there'll be one more lap after this. Wait, see what his time is. 1:43.7. Beautiful.
Yeah, that was. I think Radek has backed off now, although his definition of backing off the pace and everyone else is a bit different. Meanwhile, we see Mad out and Magnus Dahlgren having a battle here for 16th place. Dahlgren on the inside, Al on the outside there in the Alpine, and Dahlgren gets the move done on the back end of the circuit now on the run up to the pits, through the curve of Misano now, looking at the Alpine, not quite going to do it, I don't think.
I do think, Rob, you're going to have to use that picture-in-picture, because I think we should do the last lap of this last GT4 race with Radek Schuller on board, if we can. You would allow me to. So I think we're going to use the picture-in-picture and just stay a bit on board here with our race leader, by far, by the way, Mr. Radek Schuller.
Yeah, he was quick in the NSX during the last Constructors Championship as well. So if he can help get Crawford, Eddie, and Jack comfortable. In fact, I'm pretty sure Crawford was also in an NSX as well last season, if I remember correctly. So if they can all get the setup sorted on the Honda, then they could also be one to watch. Here,
Definitely.
as we see Radek Schuller coming out of the final corner now to take the win here at Misano in the second Constructors' Championship race of the evening.
He must be happy with himself, Rob. Amazing race from Radek. As we see him doing a few donuts there. How big is it?
And it's quite tight in the end there between Nathaniel Shirley and Emo Plate for third and fourth. Shirley just holding on. Eddie Warden's crossed the line in fifth. Godzilla in sixth. Lacey seventh. Barnett eighth. Kruger ninth. Foldeshi there has crossed the line. Looking at Binnersley and Tarantino now. Tarantino has just crossed the line there. Some paint missing off the side of that Porsche. Debug's home in 13th. Then it's Damien Vilk in 14th. Merchant 15th. Magnus Dahlgren getting 16th, excuse me, after that late pass on Mad Owl. Then it's Brooke, Eugenie, Mason rounding out the top 20, and here's Kevin Shepherd in the big Camaro GT4. Hard fought 21st place there. Terry Agoris, you just saw in the background, in 22nd. Gilbert Woods came home 23rd in the end. There's Robert De Vries's Mercedes, which had probably collected a bit of gravel after his off-track moment earlier. Aiden Mueller's in 25th. Hottie has recovered to finish 26th. That was a good comeback from him. Al Gartner in 27th. Goncalves in 28th. Matt Scherblum, well-driven race there from the Swedes to finish in 28th place. Then it's Burley and Red rounding out the field. And unfortunately, Hutchinson 10 laps down and disqualified after a very, very unfortunate disqualification, I must add, for his off-track moment earlier on, which saw him cutting the circuit after making a mistake, and the game deeming him to have cut too much of the corner.
But I mean, Rob, we do have to talk about this man, Radek Schuller. I mean, to win one race, that's good, but to win both races in the evening, when your last round was so horrible, that was an absolute amazing race from him.
It wasn't a horrible. Yeah. It wasn't a horrible last round for Radek Schuller because he still finished well in the top 10, if I remember correctly. It was just, by his standards, relatively speaking, it wasn't that good. Yeah, by his standards. It was by his standards. But then again, it just goes to show how quick the KTM package is, and yeah, I'll be interested to see how that changes moving forward with the introduction of the GT3 cars for the remainder of the season. We've also still got Slip Angle here with us in the commentary booth as well. How are you finding it?
The guy that won, he put on a clinic tonight, I'd say. Really good driving. So they move next week. The entire group drives GT3. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've got moving up to GT3 cars, but we're taking about a month's break over Christmas and into the new year. So
cool.
We're starting at Brands Hatch. Can we just sorry, Rob, I don't want to interrupt you, but the GT3s, of all tracks they could start at, starting off the UK Brands Hatch, then going over to Donington, just short drive away. I assume they could just, drive the cars out of the park and just start the drive to Donington. Paul Ricard then... okay, it's not that short, but let's just not talk about that. Paul Ricard then, after Donington, going to be an amazing race there as well, and then finishing off the season where it rightly belongs, of course. Not biased at all from the South African. Finishing the season off at Kyalami. Rob,
that's going to be
amazing
pie.
It's oh my word, I have to beat her as well. Like, I'm South Africa, I have to beat her. It's a must. But definitely a brilliant race tonight. Rob, I think you have some things to tell us, or give us some information. What's coming? What's coming?
So what is coming up? I'm just going to quickly get the right tab open on my phone. So tomorrow night we have the RWB Monza Big Grid Special, 60 cars versus the first chicane at Monza, and it's a full field. It's a full field of 60 cars.
Wow.
Entered at the moment. It is going to be an interesting race, to say the least. Then we've got the All Request Thursday on Automobilista 2, where it could be anything, really. It could be old cars, could be new cars, it could be new cars on old circuits, new cars on very old circuits. It could be anything. On Friday, we have the 1995, or should that be 1995, if I remember correctly.
Wow, okay.
Deutsche Tourenwagen Meisterschaft, presented by RWB and RL, excuse me. That will be on Race Room Racing Experience, and they will be racing at Road America. And then finally, on Saturday, we have the Kyalami 9 Hours, the final round of the RWB Endurance Series, and that's also going to be a fun race to watch as well. And then rounding out the calendar year on the 18th of December, we have the Battle of the Bands. And as someone who listens to an awful lot of music myself, I'm very much looking forward to this one.
And then we're starting, if I may, starting the next season, starting early, aren't we? Really early here at RWB, but that's what we're here for. 8th of January, we have the Clash of Warriors Season 2 official start. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I mean, Rob, what a year it's been. And we're rounding it out perfectly with an endurance and with the Battle of the Bands, and then we're starting 2022 how it should, with a brand new season. So yeah, this is what I call a good calendar, if I can say that. But this year, what a year it's been, huh? What a year it's been.
Absolutely. And with that all being said and done, my thanks to Panda, Slip Angle, and Nate for joining us here in the commentary box. Thanks to you for watching, and as always, bye for now.